Good evening. It's almost a year since Keir Starmer won a resounding victory in the Labour leadership election with 56% of the vote. His supporters saw it as a repudiation not only of the politics of Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, but of the grassroots group Momentum, which had helped propel Corbyn to power. After the result, he said he would work constructively with the government over the pandemic, at a moment like none other in our lifetime, he said. In fact, he garnered his biggest headlines over the attempt to expel his predecessor from the party. But the essence of a speech he will deliver tomorrow, looking ahead to the budget, has just been announced. In it, he is going to attempt to lay out what he will call a new chapter for Britain, asserting that the pandemic has exposed a conservative ideology that's weakened the foundations of our society. But what is Labour's new ideology? First, here's our policy editor, Lewis Goodall. Indeed. We will come to Keir Starmer's big speech in a moment. One of the biggest features of the government's economic response to the pandemic has been the furlough scheme. It's almost a year since it was announced, with the government paying up nearly 80% of the workers' wages business were forced to shut or to reduce staff. It's been extended 4 times already, and for many it's been a lifeline, a regular income when their jobs have ceased to exist in some of the hardest hit sectors. But the end of that support is fast approaching. Furlough is due at the end of April, although business groups are arguing it to be extended again as much of the economy remains closed. New research by the Resolution Foundation, seen by this programme, suggests hundreds of thousands of people on furlough are expecting the worst. They believe they will lose their jobs. Seema Kotecha reports. Seema Kotecha. At scale and at pace. The words of the Foreign Secretary this morning suggesting that, along with the rollout of the vaccine and treatments for coronavirus, the government is planning a blitz of mass testing in England. There are reports of plans to send out more than 400,000 lateral flow tests to homes and workplaces daily. Lateral flow kits deliver results in 30 minutes without the need for samples to be sent to labs. But as this programme has reported, they have varying degrees of accuracy according to who does the test and who it's done on. One study found tests miss 50% of positive cases. This is what the Health Secretary had to say when asked about mass testing this afternoon.
We need to use all ZAR.
Well, so far, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland do not have plans to roll out lateral flow tests in this way on this scale. I'm joined now by Professor Tim Peto, an infectious disease specialist at the University of Oxford's Department of Medicine, who is a senior author of the government study on lateral flow tests. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Peto. If it's the case that the government is getting ready to send out millions of tests, this is a major commitment. But we know there are questions around accuracy. So is it a sensible commitment?
Well, I think it's very sensible. I think
perhaps it will actually make people decide something different. Because, for example, let's say tests get sent out to a household where parents need to send their children to school so they can go to work. Are they really, one, going to do the test? And secondly, if, as you say, it's not entirely reliable, they're going to use that perhaps as not exactly an excuse in an awful way, to carry on because they can't afford to take the risk of not carrying on.
These tests are voluntary.
Now, if you feel like visiting New York vicariously, you could do so in the company of 2 of its most famous residents, the writer and wisecracker Fran Lebowitz and director Martin Scorsese. Old friends, he wanted to put her at the heart of a series of conversation-led documentaries, riffing on her life in Gotham, the bugbears and the irritations, the subways and the streets. Hence, pretend it's a city. 7 shows on Netflix, ranging over everything from the food to the plaques on the sidewalks to her horror of Times Square, at least the tourists therein. I spoke to her for her only UK TV interview just after she'd recorded an hour-long show which will stream on the Fame website from March the 18th.